Screencast 2, Danielle, Ava, Dylan. Strategies for communicating with parents. First off, it is very important to schedule a conference with the parent as soon as the child is identified as needing special help. Then, when meeting the parent, it is important to be factual and not emotional. However, you must also balance this with being honest but not brutal. It is also recommended that you ask about the parent's expectations for the child, ask about the homework, and encourage them to be a part of a student study team. Parent preparation sheet. The purpose of a parent preparation sheet is to obtain information about the child that only the parent knows. Parents hold very important information that will be helpful in determining the plan for their child. The sheet tasks questions such as what motivates their child and what they can do to help their child be more successful. These sheets are then brought to the SST meeting to assist in making a plan for the student. Predictable feelings and actions of parents. When parents first find out that their child is having a problem at school, they experience a variety of feelings and emotions ranging in intensity and duration. However, the most common feelings are denial, anger, guilt, blaming, resignation, depression, and acceptance. It is important to recognize how the parents may be feeling and understand that these feelings are not completely normal, that they may need more time or information to help them accept the fact that their child is struggling in school. SST process. The student study team is responsible for the following: gathering information from the student, making plans and strategies to assist the student within the resources of general education teacher, monitor the student's progress, help in building trust between the parents and the school, make referrals for formal evaluation when needed. SST sample summary sheet. The summary sheet includes general information such as the student name, address, date of birth, and address, reasons for referral, date and data regarding academic function, relevant personal information, attachment of intervention logs or work samples, role of academic accommodations with the process of SST. The facilitator, principal/designee, greets and introduces the participants and appoints someone to act as a timekeeper so the meeting moves along quickly. The referring teacher leads off with a list of student strengths. This starts off with a positive note and then moves on to the teacher talking about her concerns. The teacher also must avoid comments emotional nature. And then you have the student study chairs person as well. And then a digital accommodation is for special needs students in schools. As technology advances, we have more tools to assist students. Some of these accommodations include listening to audio recordings instead of reading text, using a calculator, using an alarm to help with student time management, voice text to avoid writing, and any other technological activities that may assist a student in their education.
Sensory accommodations. Many students with special needs have sensory issues that stop them from doing certain activities. There are many things that teachers and other service providers can do to help students that struggle with sensory issues. For example, teachers may let students use alternative seating, let students work in a different position, use handheld fidgets, provide earplugs, provide gum, provide a weighted lap pad, weighted vest, or wiggle cushion. Provisions of PL 94-142, Least Restrictive Environment. This also contains a provision that disabled students should be placed in the least restrictive environment, one that allows maximum possible opportunity to interact with non-impaired students. Separate schooling may only occur when the nature or severity of the disability is such that instructional goals cannot be achieved in the regular classroom. Finally, the law contains a due process clause that guarantees an impartial hearing to resolve conflicts between the parents of disabled children to the school system. Parental rights in the law. The law is designed so that parents are involved every step of the way. You get the best solutions when parents and teachers are working together. The law states that parents have the right to require their child's records be kept confidential, review records, have copies of all records, release records to non-school personnel, be notified 10 days in advance of any meeting, request an assessment for their child, be appraised of assessment tools, request an individual evaluation, have input in the IEP, refuse services, have a private school placement, and request a fair hearing if a disagreement arises. Rockner v. Walter. During this court case, the court required that a school to serve a child with a disability in a non-segregated setting when the necessary supports could be provided to make that setting appropriate. Special education students need to be in the least restrictive environment and cannot be completely segregated from the general education students unless it is absolutely necessary. Highly qualified provisions of 20 U.S.C. 1401-10. A highly qualified special education teacher must have several qualifications related to providing specialized instruction, but now also must have content matter qualifications that meet the highly qualified standards in the No Child Left Behind law, with 2 exceptions. This means that a teacher who teaches a segregated special ed class must also be qualified to teach the age-appropriate general education curriculum. 20 U.S.C. 1401-29. In Michigan, special education classes must offer students with disabilities access to curriculum that addresses the grade level content up to grade 8, and the high school education standards 9 through 12th grade. A parent whose student attends a program not meeting these standards may challenge that practice through either a hearing or a complaint. LRE in Section 504. If students are placed away from a regular school, the facilities, equipment, and programs available in the placement must be comparable to those available in the regular schools.
Multidisciplinary team processes. The people on the multidisciplinary team evaluate a child's performance and determines if a child should seek further testing for diagnosing a child with a learning disability. The team individuals include the school psychologist, the classroom teacher, the special education specialist, the nurse who works for the school district, the parents, and a school administrator. Larry P. versus Riles, California, 1979. Controversy about whether IQ tests were racially and culturally discriminatory changed how children of color were tested. Intelligent quotient tests. Stanford Binet Intelligence Scale, Universal Nonverbal Intelligence, Differential Ability Scales, Peabody Individual Achievement Test, Wechsler Individual Achievement Test, Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale, Woodcock, Johnson III, Tests of Cognitive Disabilities. WISC-IV. It generates a full-scale IQ, formerly known as an intelligent quotient or IQ score, that represents a child's general and intellectual ability. It also provides 5 primary index scores: verbal comprehension index, visual spatial index, fluid reasoning index, working memory index, and processing speed index. These indices represent a child's abilities in discrete cognitive domains. 5 ancillary composite scores can be derived from various combinations of primary and secondary subsets. Commonly used academic assessments: cognition, intelligence, ability to reason, to think abstractly, and to solve problems. Verbal intelligence, ability to use cognitive processes which rely primarily on verbal language. Nonverbal intelligence, ability to use cognitive processes which do not rely primarily on verbal language. Purpose of observation. The observation is supposed to tell you what the lesson was, tell what the student's responsibility was during the lesson, detail the student's degree of participation in lesson, and state how his participation compared with that of other class members. Stick to the facts. Record verbatim any answers, questions, or comments made by the student. Ask teacher to evaluate the student's work and to give you a copy of the student's paper to attach to your report. Ask the teacher if today's performance was typical and include a time on task report. Patterns of strengths and weaknesses. Benchmark screening, CBM, progress monitoring, criterion reference assessment, MEAP, norm reference tests, achievement IQ, district assessments, classroom test scores, teacher report, teacher observation, and interview scales, functional cognitive. Discrepancy model. The discrepancy model used to be used to determine whether or not a student had a learning disability and if they deserved services or not. This is no longer the only method for determining if a child receives services or not. The discrepancy model was designed so that if a student scored very high in one area of a test but very low on the other, there would be a discrepancy in the test scores. People believe that this discrepancy must have been caused by something else, such as a learning disability. There are many problems with this model, one of them being that only students with very large discrepancies were awarded services, leaving a lot of low-functioning students without the help they needed.